Hello, everyone. I am Elena, and it is truly wonderful to have you here with me today. Whether you are joining us for the very first time or you have been part of this community for a while, I want you to know that today's lesson is something really special. We are going to spend this time together exploring a brand new collection of everyday English phrases that are completely fresh, completely new, and completely ready to transform the way you communicate. If you have watched previous episodes on this channel, you already know that our focus is not on memorizing lists of vocabulary or drilling grammar rules. Our focus is on the real living language, the kind of English that breathes, that carries emotion, that sounds like a real person and not a textbook. And today, we are going to continue that journey with an entirely new set of expressions. In this masterclass, we are going to move through real situations step by step. We will practice phrases for starting conversations warmly, sharing exciting news, reacting with genuine emotion, softening what you say, managing moments of hesitation, making and declining invitations, explaining yourself clearly, having deeper casual conversations, handling disagreement with grace, talking about the future, telling stories that hold people's attention, communicating professionally, showing emotional intelligence, and finally, building the kind of confident English identity that carries you through every situation with ease. Each section is going to be full of practice, repetition, mini dialogues, and speaking prompts that help you go from knowing a phrase to truly owning it. Because the goal of this lesson is not that you walk away having heard these expressions. The goal is that you walk away feeling them, ready to use them naturally the next time someone speaks to you in English. So find a comfortable position, take a long, slow breath, relax your shoulders, and let us begin this journey together. I am so glad you are here. Let us begin at the very beginning, with the first moment of a conversation. That opening moment when you greet someone and set the whole tone for everything that follows. Most learners rush through this part without realizing how powerful it is. But think about it. When someone greets you warmly and naturally, how does that feel? It feels welcoming. It lowers your guard. It makes you want to keep talking. And that is exactly the effect we want your English to have on people. Today, we are going to learn a set of phrases that help you open conversations in a way that feels genuinely human, not rehearsed, not stiff, but warm and real. Let us start with a phrase that is simple but incredibly effective in the right moment. Long time no see. This is one of those expressions that native English speakers use all the time when they run into someone they have not spoken to in a while. Maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe even years. And the beauty of it is that it carries both surprise and warmth at the same time. Imagine you are walking through a grocery store and you spot a former classmate you have not seen since college. Your face lights up and you say, "Oh, wow, long time no see. I was just thinking about you the other day. How have things been treating you?" That single phrase, "long time no see," immediately signals that you recognize the person, you are happy to see them, and you want to reconnect. Listen, long time no see. Say it, long time no see. Echo that with a smile in your voice. Long time no see. Now let us pair that with another very natural follow-up question. What have you been up to? This is a wonderfully open and friendly question. It gives the other person space to share whatever they want about their life. It is not too formal, not too intense, just warm and curious. Listen. What have you been up to? Your turn. What have you been up to lately? Let us try both phrases together in a short scene. You bump into an old colleague outside a cafe. You say, "Oh, hey, long time no see. What have you been up to lately?" They say, "Not much really, just keeping busy with the kids." You respond, "Oh, I completely understand. Things have been pretty hectic on my end too. Do you have a few minutes to catch up?" Notice how natural and flowing that is. No awkward pauses, no stiff formality, just two people reconnecting warmly. That is the power of starting a conversation with the right phrases. Now let us add a few more warm conversation openers to your collection, because different situations call for different tones. When you want to check in on someone, maybe a colleague who has had a tough week or a friend who has been dealing with something difficult, instead of jumping straight to, "How are you?" try something more personal like, "How are you holding up?" This phrase shows that you notice when someone might be going through something. It shows care and attention. Listen. How are you holding up? Say it back. How are you holding up? Another beautiful phrase for checking in is, "How have things been on your end?" This is especially useful when you have not been in contact for a while and you want to acknowledge that gap gracefully. For example, "Hey, I know it has been ages since we caught up. How have things been on your end?" Or, in a more casual tone, "We have both been so busy lately. How have things been on your end?" Repeat that. "How have things been on your end?" And one more. "Are you doing all right?" This is short, gentle, and incredibly human. It works as a greeting, as a check-in mid-conversation, or as a quiet moment of care when someone seems a little off. Echo that. "Are you doing all right? Are you doing all right?" Now, let us do a small speaking exercise. I want you to imagine 3 different people you might greet in the next few days. Maybe a coworker you have not spoken to in a while, a neighbor you see occasionally, or a friend you lost touch with. Think about how you would open each of those conversations using today's phrases. Pause for a moment and try saying at least one opening line out loud. Maybe, "Hey, long time no see. How are you holding up?" Or, "Oh, I was thinking about you just the other day. How have things been on your end?" Take a few seconds and actually say it out loud, because speaking out loud is how these phrases move from your head into your voice. Wonderful. Now let us keep building. Let us also look at one more group of warm opening expressions, the kind you use not just when greeting someone, but when you want to acknowledge that you have been thinking about them. These phrases are particularly powerful because they immediately make the other person feel valued. "You have been on my mind lately." This is a genuinely warm thing to say to someone you care about. It tells them that they matter to you even when you are not together. Listen. "You have been on my mind lately." Your turn. "You have been on my mind lately. I was actually hoping to run into you." This phrase creates a lovely moment of serendipity. It suggests that the meeting feels perfectly timed. Say it. "I was actually hoping to run into you. I am really glad I caught you." Use this when you needed to talk to someone and the timing worked out well. Repeat that. "I am really glad I caught you." Let us use all three in short examples. You see a friend you have been concerned about. You say, "Oh, hey, you have been on my mind lately. I was going to message you this week. How are you doing?" Or you bump into someone you needed to discuss something with. You say, "Oh, perfect. I was actually hoping to run into you. I had a question I wanted to ask." Or you catch a colleague just as they are about to leave. "I am so glad I caught you. I just wanted to check something before the end of the day." Now, let us try a full, warm conversation opener scene to finish this section. Imagine you see someone from your old neighborhood at a community event. You walk over with a smile. You say, "Oh, wow, long time no see. Are you doing all right?" They say, "Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Still living in the area, actually." You say, "Oh, really? I had no idea. What have you been up to since I last saw you?" They laugh and say, "Honestly, so much has happened." You respond, "Well, I would love to hear all about it if you have a moment." See how one warm opening leads naturally into a real conversation? That is the magic of getting the first few phrases right. Now, let us move into something we all do every single day: sharing news. Something happened, something changed, something surprised you, and you want to tell someone about it. The way you introduce that news has a huge effect on how engaged your listener becomes. Today, we are going to learn phrases that turn even an ordinary piece of news into something your listener leans in to hear. Let us start with one of the most useful phrases in casual English conversation. You will never guess what happened. This is a classic way to grab someone's attention and signal that something interesting is about to follow. The moment someone hears this phrase, their curiosity activates. They want to know what comes next. For example, you call a friend and say, "You will never guess what happened at the office today. My manager announced that we are all getting an extra day off next month." Or, "You will never guess what happened. I ran into our old English teacher at the gym." Listen, you will never guess what happened. Say it. You will never guess what happened. Try echoing that with a little excitement in your voice, like you really do have something surprising to share. You will never guess what happened. Now, let us add another brilliant phrase for introducing surprising news. Get this. This is short, informal, punchy, and very natural in spoken English. When you say, "get this," before a piece of news, it signals that what follows is going to be surprising or interesting. For example, "I was walking home from work last night, and get this, I found out the little bakery on our street is closing down next week." Or, "I checked my email this morning, and get this, I got a message from someone I had not heard from in 10 years. Listen, get this. Your turn. Get this. Say it naturally, like you would in a real conversation. Get this. Now, let us practice a mini exercise. I am going to give you a piece of news, and you introduce it using one of today's phrases. The news is, your friend got offered a job in another country. You might say, "You will never guess what happened to Sarah. She just got offered a job in Canada." Or, "Get this, Sarah just got offered a job in Canada." Try both versions out loud and feel how the phrase changes the energy of the news. Let us now look at a few more phrases that introduce updates in different tones. When you want to share something that turned out differently from expected, use "as it turns out." For example, "I spent all morning looking for my keys, and as it turns out, they were in my coat pocket the whole time." Or, We thought the event was canceled, but as it turns out, it has just been moved to a different venue. Repeat that. As it turns out. As it turns out. When you want to share something important that you need the other person to understand, try, "Here is the thing." This phrase signals that you are about to say something that really matters. Here's the thing. I have been thinking about this for weeks, and I finally made a decision. Or, here is the thing about learning English every day. It is not always about big study sessions. It is about small, consistent habits. Echo that. Here is the thing. Here is the thing. And when something happens that is almost hard to believe, say, "You are not going to believe this." For example, "You are not going to believe this, but the flight I almost missed actually got delayed by 2 hours." Or, "You are not going to believe this. My neighbor's cat has learned how to open the front door by itself." Say it back. "You are not going to believe this. You are not going to believe this." Let us now do a full practice scene where you use all of these phrases. Imagine you are telling a friend about a strange and funny week you had. You call them and say, "Oh, you are not going to believe this week I have had. So on Monday morning, get this. I left for work without my bag. Completely forgot it on the kitchen chair. So I went back, and as it turns out, I had also left the oven on. Here is the thing though. Because of all that, I actually missed my usual train and ended up on a later one and bumped into someone who turned out to be a contact I had been trying to reach for months." Feel how that story flows. Each phrase creates a little moment of suspense and connection. Your listener is right there with you the whole time. That is the power of knowing how to introduce news in English. Now let us do one more practice exercise before we move on. I want you to think of something real that happened to you recently. Maybe something small, an unexpected moment at the store, a funny coincidence, something that surprised you at home or at work. And I want you to introduce it using one of today's phrases. Say it out loud right now. Start with, "You will never guess," or "Get this," or "Here is the thing," or "As it turns out," and then describe what happened in just 2 or 3 sentences. Take a moment, breathe, and say it out loud. How did that feel? If you manage to say it without pausing too long to translate, that is real progress. That is your brain reaching for English automatically because you have practiced. And every time you practice like this, the reach gets faster and the pause gets shorter, until one day there is no pause at all. You just speak. Now let us turn to the other side of that conversation. How do you react when someone else shares news with you? Because in conversation, your reactions are just as important as what you actually say. When someone shares something and your response is flat or robotic, the conversation dies. But when your reactions carry real emotion and warmth, the conversation comes alive and the other person feels genuinely heard. Today, we are going to practice a rich set of reaction phrases that express specific emotions clearly and naturally. Let us begin with reactions to good news. When someone shares something wonderful, instead of just saying, "Oh, nice," try these more expressive options. "Oh, that is brilliant." This is warm and enthusiastic and sounds completely natural in everyday spoken English. Listen. "Oh, that is brilliant." Say it. "Oh, That is brilliant. Another great one for good news is, what a relief. This works especially well when someone shares news that resolves something stressful or worrying. For example, a friend says, I finally found out that my test results came back completely clear. You respond, oh, what a relief. I have been thinking about you all week. Repeat that. What a relief. What a relief. When someone shares an achievement or a positive change, try, that must feel amazing. This phrase shows that you are imagining what the experience feels like for them. It creates a moment of real connection. For example, a colleague says, I just got confirmation that I passed my professional certification. You respond, oh, that must feel amazing. All that preparation finally paying off. Echo that slowly. That must feel amazing. That must feel amazing. And for warm, genuine happiness for someone else, try, I am so glad to hear that. Your turn. I am so glad to hear that. I am so glad to hear that. Now let us practice these in short scenarios. Your friend calls and says, I got the apartment I applied for. You say, oh, that is brilliant. When do you move in? Your colleague says, my daughter just started walking for the first time yesterday. You respond, oh, what a wonderful moment. That must feel amazing. Your friend says, I finally sorted out that situation with my landlord. You say, I am so glad to hear that. It has been going on for so long. Now let us look at reactions to difficult news. Because empathy is just as important as celebration. When someone shares something hard, instead of saying, oh, that is bad, or I am sorry, try these more human responses. Oh no, that is rough. This phrase is honest and direct, but carries real warmth. Listen. Oh no, that is rough. Say it back. Oh no, that is rough. Another beautiful, empathetic response is, that must have been really tough. Or, I can imagine that was not easy. Or, that sounds like a lot to deal with. Repeat these gently. That must have been really tough. I can imagine that was not easy. That sounds like a lot to deal with. Let us practice reacting to difficult news in short scenes. A friend says, I had a bit of a car accident last week. Nothing serious, but it shook me up. You respond, oh no, that is rough. Are you doing okay now? A colleague says, my internet has been out for 3 days, and I have been trying to work from home. You say, oh, that sounds like a lot to deal with. How have you been managing? Someone says, I found out my flight home for the holidays got canceled. You respond, oh, that must have been really tough, especially at this time of year. Notice how each of those responses is short but full of feeling. You are not writing a speech. You are just showing that you are present and that you care. That is emotional fluency, and it is one of the most powerful things you can develop in a second language. Now let us do a full speaking challenge. I will say something and you react naturally using one of today's phrases. I say, I finally finished decorating my apartment after 6 months. You might say, oh, that is brilliant. I bet it feels amazing to have it done. I say, my flight back home got delayed by 8 hours. You might say, oh no, that is rough. How did you manage? I say, My daughter passed her school exams with the highest marks in her class. You say, "Oh, that must feel amazing. You must be so proud." Excellent. Every time you practice a reaction like this, you are training your emotional English, the part of language that connects people heart to heart. One of the most important but least practiced skills in English is knowing how to soften what you say. Native speakers do this constantly without even thinking about it. They cushion difficult truths. They make requests feel less demanding. They decline things without bruising feelings. They share opinions without imposing them. And today we are going to learn exactly how to do all of those things. Let us start with hedging phrases, the small expressions that soften how certain you sound. These are especially useful when you want to share an opinion or make a correction without sounding harsh. Instead of saying, "You are wrong," a fluent speaker might say, "With respect, I see it a bit differently." This phrase is honest, but it opens a dialogue rather than shutting one down. Listen. "With respect, I see it a bit differently." Say it. "With respect, I see it a bit differently." Echo that. "With respect, I see it a bit differently." Another powerful softener is, "I wonder if there might be a better approach here." This is particularly useful in professional or collaborative settings when someone has suggested something that you think could be improved. Instead of saying, "That will not work," you say, "I wonder if there might be a better approach here," and then offer your idea. Repeat that. "I wonder if there might be a better approach here." Now let us look at a whole collection of hedging expressions you can use in daily life. "I could be mistaken," but "correct me if I am wrong." "It is just a thought," but "no pressure at all," but "I might be off on this," but "does that sound right to you?" Let us practice each one. "I could be mistaken," but "correct me if I am wrong." "It is just a thought," but "no pressure at all," but "I might be off on this," but "does that sound right to you?" Let us practice using them in real situations. You are reviewing a project with a colleague and you notice something that seems incorrect. Instead of saying, "That is wrong," you say, "Correct me if I am wrong, but I think this number might be slightly off." Or, "I could be mistaken, but I thought the deadline was originally next Tuesday." Your colleague checks and confirms you are right. You say, "No worries at all, just worth checking." See how that whole exchange stays friendly and professional? You got your point across without anyone feeling defensive. Now let us look at softening phrases specifically for making requests. These are phrases that show you respect the other person's time and capacity before asking them for something. Instead of saying, "Do this for me," try, "When you have a moment, could you?" Or, "I hate to ask when you are so busy, but would you mind?" Or, "Only if it is convenient for you." Or, "Whenever it suits you best." Your turn. "When you have a moment, could you?" "I hate to ask, but would you mind?" "Only if it is convenient for you." "Whenever it suits you best." These phrases work beautifully in both personal and professional situations. Let us try a short scene. You need a colleague to review something for you, but you know they are having a busy week. You say, "I hate to ask when things are so hectic, but when you have a moment, would you mind taking a quick look at this?" Colleague says, "Of course, no problem at all. I will take a look later this afternoon." You say, "Only if it suits you. I genuinely appreciate it." Now let us do a short speaking exercise with these request phrases. I will give you a situation and you soften the request naturally. The situation is, you want to borrow a friend's car for the afternoon. Instead of saying, "Can I borrow your car?" you say, "I hate to ask, but whenever it suits you, would you mind if I borrowed your car for a couple of hours this afternoon?" Or, the situation is you want your manager to review your proposal before the deadline. You say, "When you have a moment, could you take a quick look at the proposal I sent over?" Only if it is convenient. I want to make sure I have not missed anything important. Feel how respectful and natural those requests sound. You are asking clearly and confidently, but without any pressure. Now let us look at softening phrases specifically for when you need to say something that might be unwelcome, like telling a friend you cannot make their event, or telling someone their plan has a problem. Instead of just delivering the uncomfortable truth directly, try cushioning it first. "I really wish this were different, but..." This phrase expresses genuine regret before the difficult message. Say it back. "I really wish this were different, but I hope this does not come across the wrong way. But..." This phrase signals that your intention is kind, even if the content is sensitive. Listen, "I hope this does not come across the wrong way, but I say this with complete respect." This phrase reassures the other person that what follows comes from a good place. Say it. "I say this with complete respect." Let us practice using these in real situations. A friend has asked for your honest opinion on something they created, and you think it needs improvement. You say, "I hope this does not come across the wrong way, because I think what you have created is genuinely interesting. I just wonder if the ending could be a bit stronger." Or, a colleague suggests an approach you think is risky. You say, "I say this with complete respect, but I wonder if we have considered what happens if this does not work out the way we expect." Now, let us practice a few softening phrases for giving feedback, because one of the most delicate communication situations is telling someone their work could be better without making them feel bad. Instead of saying, "This is not good enough," try, "There are some really strong elements here, and I think with a few tweaks, it could be even better." Or, "This is a solid start. I just have a couple of small suggestions if you are open to them." Or, "I can see the thought that went into this. I wonder if we could take it just one step further." Echo that. "There are some really strong elements here. This is a solid start. I can see the thought that went into this." These phrases are honest, kind, and constructive. That is the ideal combination for any feedback conversation. Let us do one last practice for this section, a full softening scene. Imagine you need to tell a friend that their idea for a joint trip has some problems. You say, "I have been thinking about what you suggested, and I love the spirit of it. I really wish this were different, but the timing is just a bit tricky for me with work. I hope this does not come across the wrong way, because I genuinely want to make it happen. I just wonder if we could look at different dates, maybe a few weeks later." Friend says, "Of course, that makes complete sense." You say, "I really appreciate your understanding. I am crossing my fingers we can make it work." That whole conversation was warm, honest, and completely free of awkwardness. That is the power of softening your language. Let us now move into something that trips up many English learners. What to say when you need a moment to think. Many learners panic during this pause. They freeze, they go silent, or they suddenly feel like all their English has disappeared. But this is completely normal. Even native speakers pause when they think. The difference is that they have phrases that make those pauses feel natural and confident rather than awkward. Today, we are going to learn the expressions that fluent English speakers use to buy time while thinking. And you are going to practice them until they feel completely natural. Let us start with off the top of my head. This phrase tells the listener that you are sharing your immediate thought without having researched or prepared. It is honest and natural. For example, someone asks you what the best restaurant in your area is, and you say, off the top of my head, I would say that little Italian place on the corner, but I am sure there are others. Listen slowly. Off the top of my head. Off the top of my head. Feel how it flows. Off the top of my head. Now, let us add another very useful one. That is a good question. I need to think about that for a second. This is especially helpful in professional situations, or when you are asked something complex and you want to give a thoughtful answer. It shows that you take the question seriously, and it buys you the time you need without any awkwardness. Repeat that. That is a good question. I need to think about that for a second. You can also shorten it to, give me a second on that, or let me think that one through. Both are natural and perfectly normal in everyday conversation. Your turn. Give me a second on that. Let me think that one through. Here are more thinking phrases you can add to your collection. Bear with me for a moment. This is warm and polite. It asks the listener to be patient while you gather your thoughts. Say it back. Bear with me for a moment. Bear with me. I am trying to find the right way to put this. Use this when you have the idea, but you are searching for the best words to express it. It is incredibly natural and relatable because everyone has experienced that feeling. Echo that slowly. I am trying to find the right way to put this. How do I explain this? This is a thinking out loud phrase that shows you are working through your explanation in real time. It sounds genuine and thoughtful. Say it. How do I explain this? And one more beautiful one. It is on the tip of my tongue. This is for those moments when you know a word or piece of information, but you cannot quite access it right now. For example, oh, what is that film called? You know, the one with the two brothers. It is completely on the tip of my tongue. Listen, it is on the tip of my tongue. Now let us do a short practice exercise. I will ask you a question, and you will answer naturally using at least one of today's thinking phrases. Question 1. What is your favorite thing about learning English? You might say, that is a good question. Bear with me for a second. I think what I enjoy most is the moment when something suddenly clicks, when a phrase you have been practicing just comes out naturally. You were not nervous, it just came. That feeling is incredible. Question 2. What advice would you give to a new English learner? You might say, off the top of my head, I would say do not wait until you are ready, because you will never feel completely ready. I am trying to find the right way to put this, but it is kind of like jumping into cold water. The first second is the hardest. After that, it is fine. See how naturally those thinking phrases carry you through the moment. They keep the conversation alive. They buy you time. And they actually make you sound more thoughtful and engaged, not less fluent. Let us now move into a beautiful area of everyday English, making and responding to invitations. These moments happen constantly in daily life. Someone asks you to join them for something. You invite a friend somewhere. Plans are made or changed. And each of these moments has its own set of natural phrases that make everything feel smooth and warm. Let us start with making invitations, because how you invite someone sets the tone for their response. Instead of a flat, "Do you want to come?" try these more natural and warm options. Fancy joining us for lunch? This is a beautifully casual British-influenced phrase that has spread into everyday English worldwide. It is friendly and low pressure. It invites without demanding. Listen. Fancy joining us for lunch? Say it. Fancy joining us for lunch? Would you be up for grabbing a coffee sometime? This is warm and casual and perfectly suits a new friendship or a reconnection. It is open-ended. It does not commit to a specific time immediately, which makes it feel relaxed and easy to say yes to. Repeat that. Would you be up for grabbing a coffee sometime? Would you be up for grabbing a coffee sometime? A few of us are heading to the market on Saturday. You should come along. This phrasing is very natural in speech. You are not making a formal request. You are just including them in something you are already planning. You should come along. Echo that. You should come along. You should come along. Let us add one more. We are thinking of going to see that new exhibition next weekend. Would you want to join? Notice the phrase, "we are thinking of." It makes the plan sound flexible and easy to join rather than already set in stone. Your turn. We are thinking of. Would you want to join? Now for accepting invitations. When you want to say yes with genuine enthusiasm and warmth, try these alternatives to just saying yes or okay. Count me in. Short, enthusiastic, and completely natural. Say it back. Count me in. Count me in. I would love to. This is warm and clear and leaves no room for misunderstanding. Listen. I would love to. I would love to. That sounds like a plan. This phrase confirms the invitation and suggests you are already mentally getting ready for it. Say it. That sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan. I am so in. This is more casual and very enthusiastic, perfect for close friends and relaxed situations. Repeat that with energy. I am so in. I am so in. Now for declining invitations, because not every invitation can be accepted, and how you say no matters enormously for maintaining warmth in a relationship. Instead of just saying no or I cannot come, try these gentle and friendly alternatives. I wish I could, but I am tied up that day. This phrase is warm and regretful. It shows that you would have liked to come, but you have a prior commitment. Echo that. I wish I could, but I am tied up that day. I will have to sit this one out. This is casual and not at all defensive. It simply acknowledges that this particular occasion will go ahead without you. Your turn. I will have to sit this one out. I will have to sit this one out. Rain check. This wonderful phrase means you are declining now, but you want to take them up on the offer another time. It is friendly and keeps the door open. Say it back. Rain check. Rain check. Another time for sure. This is similar. It declines gracefully while expressing genuine interest in doing it eventually. Listen. Another time for sure. Let us now do a full practice scene. Friend says, "Hey, a few of us are heading out for dinner on Friday night. Fancy joining us?" You say, "Oh, I would love to. Count me in. Where are you thinking of going?" Friend says, "There is a new Thai place that just opened." You say, "That sounds like a plan. What time are you meeting?" Friend says, "Around 7. You say, "Perfect. I will be there." Now practice the other side. Friend says, "We are going to the outdoor concert on Sunday. You should come along." You are not free that day. You say, "Oh, I really wish I could, but I am tied up on Sunday. Rain check, though. I would love to catch the next one." Feel how both of those responses maintain the warmth of the friendship, regardless of whether you are going or not. That is social fluency, knowing how to navigate these everyday moments with grace. Now, let us look at one of the most practical communication skills there is: explaining yourself clearly and making sure the other person has understood you correctly. Misunderstandings happen in every language, but in a second language, they can feel more stressful. Today, we are going to learn phrases that help you navigate those moments calmly and confidently. Let us start with rephrasing phrases, the ones you use when you realize what you said was not quite clear enough and you want to try again. What I am trying to say is, this is one of the most natural and useful rephrasing phrases in English. It signals that you have more to add or that you want to express the same idea more clearly. For example, "I do not think we should rush this decision." What I am trying to say is, taking a few extra days to think it through could actually save us time in the long run. Listen, what I am trying to say is, say it. What I am trying to say is, to put it another way. This is a wonderful phrase for introducing a simpler or different explanation of the same idea. For example, the process involves quite a few steps. To put it another way, think of it like following a recipe. Each stage has to happen in the right order for the result to work. Repeat that. To put it another way. To put it another way. What I mean by that is, this phrase is similar but slightly more direct. It picks up a specific word or idea you just used and unpacks it further. For example, "I think she handled it really maturely." What I mean by that is, she stayed calm when most people would have reacted very differently. Echo that. What I mean by that is. What I mean by that is. Let me rephrase that. This is a clean and direct way to acknowledge that your first attempt was not quite right and you want to try again. It is refreshingly honest and very natural. Your turn. Let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. Now let us look at phrases for checking whether you have been understood. After explaining something important, especially something technical or emotional. It is always a good idea to check in with the other person. Try. Does that make sense? Short, natural, and inviting the other person to respond. Say it back. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Are you with me so far? This is especially useful in longer explanations, where you want to check in partway through rather than waiting until the end. Listen. Are you with me so far? Are you with me so far? Does that track? This is a slightly more modern and informal phrase that is widely used in conversation and professional settings alike. Say it. Does that track? Does that track? Am I being clear? This is a self-checking phrase that shows humility and a genuine desire to communicate well. Repeat that. Am I being clear? Am I being clear? Now from the listener's side, when you need to check your own understanding, when you want to make sure you have understood correctly before responding, use these. So what you are saying is, this phrase is perfect for confirming that you have captured the main point of what someone said. For example, so what you are saying is, the project will go ahead, but with a slightly reduced budget. Is that right? Echo that. So what you are saying is, if I am following you correctly, similar but a little softer, it shows careful listening. Your turn. If I am following you correctly, just to make sure I have got this right. This is very natural and is used constantly in real conversation when someone wants to avoid misunderstanding something important. Say it back. Just to make sure I have got this right, could you walk me through that again? This is a polite and respectful way of asking someone to repeat or re-explain something. It is much softer than, "Can you say that again?" and works beautifully in professional situations. Listen, could you walk me through that again? Could you walk me through that again? Let us practice all of these in a short scene. Your manager explains a new process to you. You are listening carefully, but the middle part was a little unclear. You say, "Could you walk me through that again? I want to make sure I have got it right." Manager re-explains. You say, "Okay, so if I am following you correctly, I submit the form first and then wait for approval before starting. Is that right?" Manager confirms. You say, "Perfect. Does it matter what order the other documents go in, or is that flexible?" Manager clarifies further. You say, "That makes complete sense. Thank you for going through that." See how comfortable and professional that exchange is? You asked for clarification multiple times, but you sounded confident and engaged throughout. That is the difference between knowing these phrases and not knowing them. Now let us go a level deeper into casual conversation, because there is a difference between small talk and real conversation. And that difference lies in the questions you ask and the interest you show. Today, we are going to learn phrases that take a surface-level chat and turn it into something genuinely connecting. Let us start with curiosity phrases, the questions and expressions that invite someone to share more about themselves without feeling interrogated. What is that like for you? This is one of the most beautifully open questions you can ask in English. It invites someone to describe their experience, their feelings, their personal perspective, rather than just giving you a fact. For example, someone says they just started working from home full-time. Instead of saying, "Oh, nice," you ask, "What is that like for you?" And suddenly they have a whole world to share. Say it. What is that like for you? What is that like for you? How did you get into that? This is perfect when someone mentions a hobby, a skill, a career, or an interest. It shows genuine curiosity about their journey and opens up a fascinating mini story. Repeat that. How did you get into that? How did you get into that? That is interesting. Tell me more. This is a phrase that every good conversationalist has in their toolkit. It is warm, direct, and shows that you are engaged and want to hear what comes next. Echo that. That is interesting. Tell me more. That is interesting. Tell me more. Have you always been into that? This question invites someone to share how a passion or habit developed over time. It is personal and warm without being intrusive. Your turn. Have you always been into that? Have you always been into that? What got you started? Similar to how did you get into that, but shorter and more casual. Very natural in friendly conversation. Say it back. What got you started? What got you started? Was it something you always wanted to do? This adds a reflective dimension to the conversation. It invites someone to think about whether this was a long-held dream or something that grew unexpectedly. Listen. Was it something you always wanted to do? How long have you been at it? This is a natural follow-up after someone shares an interest or activity. It shows continuity of interest and invites them to talk about their progress. Say it. How long have you been at it? How long have you been at it? Now, let us practice using these in a flowing conversation. Someone at a social gathering mentions they have been learning pottery lately. You say, "Oh, really? How did you get into that?" They say, "I saw a class advertised and just signed up on a whim." You say, "Was it something you always wanted to try?" They say, "Actually, no. I just needed something to take my mind off work." You say, "And what is that like for you, being creative with your hands?" They light up and say, "It is honestly one of the most relaxing things I have ever done." You say, "That is interesting. Tell me more." And just like that, you have created a genuine conversation out of what could have been a forgettable exchange. Now, let us also practice sharing your own background naturally, because good conversation is a two-way flow. When it is your turn to share something about yourself, instead of just stating dry facts, try building a small story using context, a reason, and a feeling. For example, I got into photography almost by accident. A friend lent me their camera for a trip and something clicked, literally and figuratively. Now I take it everywhere. That structure of how it started, why it stayed, and where it is now gives your story warmth and dimension. Try creating your own version out loud right now. Think of something you enjoy or are good at, and describe how you got into it, using that same pattern. Take a few seconds, say it out loud, and notice how much more interesting it sounds than a simple list of facts. That is conversational storytelling, and it is a core skill of fluent English speakers. Now let us practice the full back and forth of a deeper conversation using all of today's curiosity phrases together. Imagine you are at a dinner party and you get talking to someone you have just met. They mention they recently started running. Instead of just saying, "Oh, nice," you say, "Oh, really? Have you always been into sport, or is this new for you?" They say, Completely new, actually. I only started about 3 months ago. You say, what got you started? They say, honestly, I had a tough few months and I just needed something to clear my head. You say, what is that like for you? That kind of release. They say, it is everything right now. I did not expect to enjoy it this much. You say, that is interesting. Tell me more. How often are you going? Notice what happened in that conversation. You asked 7 follow-up questions, and every single one grew naturally out of what the other person said. You were not running through a list. You were genuinely curious, and it showed. That is the difference between performing a conversation and having one. Let us also look at some phrases that help you transition smoothly from listening to sharing, because a good conversation moves between both people naturally. That actually reminds me of something similar. Use this when what someone shared connects to your own experience. It shows you are relating to them, not just waiting for your turn. Repeat that. That actually reminds me of something similar. I can relate to that. Use this when someone shares a feeling or experience that resonates with yours. Echo that. I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Something similar happened to me, actually. This phrase bridges their story and yours naturally, without making it feel like you are stealing the spotlight. Your turn. Something similar happened to me, actually. Funnily enough, I was just thinking about that the other day. This phrase shows that the topic has been on your mind too, and creates an instant sense of connection. Say it back. Funnily enough, I was just thinking about that the other day. Let us practice all of these in a short exchange. Your friend says, I have been trying to cut back on my screen time before bed, and it has really changed how I sleep. You respond, I can relate to that so much. Funnily enough, I was just thinking about the same thing the other day. Something similar happened to me, actually. I started reading instead of scrolling, and after a couple of weeks, I was sleeping so much better. That actually reminds me. Have you tried keeping a notebook by your bed? I started writing down 3 things I want to do the next day, and it really helps me switch off. That whole exchange felt natural and warm and connected. You listened, you related, you shared, and you added value to the conversation. That is deep, casual English at its very best. Let us now step into an area that many learners find uncomfortable, but which is essential for real-world communication: handling disagreement and moments of tension. Whether it is a difference of opinion with a friend, a work conflict, or just a misunderstanding that needs untangling, knowing how to navigate these moments calmly and respectfully is one of the highest level communication skills you can develop. And English has a rich set of phrases that help you do exactly that. Let us begin with validation phrases, the expressions that acknowledge someone else's feelings before you express your own. This is called validation, and it is one of the most powerful tools in any language for reducing tension in a conversation. When you validate someone, they feel heard, and that makes them far more open to hearing your perspective in return. Try, I can see why you would feel that way. This phrase is incredibly powerful because it acknowledges the other person's emotional experience without necessarily agreeing with it. Listen, I can see why you would feel that way. Say it. I can see why you would feel that way. Another beautiful validation phrase is, that makes a lot of sense from your perspective. This shows that you have genuinely tried to understand where they are coming from. Repeat that. That makes a lot of sense from your perspective. And I hear you. And I want you to know that I take that seriously. This phrase does two things at once. It validates and it commits to engagement. It tells the other person that their concern matters to you. Echo that. I hear you, and I want you to know that I take that seriously. Now let us look at phrases for expressing your own view calmly after validating someone else. Instead of immediately launching into your argument, try cushioning your perspective first. At the same time, from where I stand, this phrase acknowledges that two perspectives can coexist. Your turn. At the same time, from where I stand, I do not want to dismiss what you are saying, but I want to share something too. This phrase is incredibly respectful. It makes clear that you are not ignoring their point, just adding to it. Say it back. I do not want to dismiss what you are saying, but I want to share something too. Could I offer a different angle on this? This is a graceful way to introduce a contrasting view without making it feel confrontational. Listen, could I offer a different angle on this? Could I offer a different angle on this? Now let us add phrases for calming things down when a conversation becomes tense. Because sometimes, even with the best intentions, conversations get heated, and knowing how to pause and reset is an invaluable skill. Let us take a step back for a second. This phrase gently signals that you want to slow down and approach the conversation more carefully. Say it. Let us take a step back for a second. I think we both want the same outcome here. This phrase is beautiful because it shifts the focus from the disagreement to the shared goal. It reminds both parties that you are on the same side. Repeat that. I think we both want the same outcome here. Can we press pause and come back to this with fresh eyes? This is especially useful when a conversation is going in circles or emotions are running high. Echo that. Can we press pause and come back to this with fresh eyes? I do not want us to leave this conversation on a sour note. This phrase shows maturity and care for the relationship. It signals that you value the connection more than winning the argument. Your turn. I do not want us to leave this conversation on a sour note. Let us do a full practice dialogue. A colleague is frustrated because they feel their ideas are not being taken seriously in meetings. Colleague says, I just feel like every time I suggest something, it gets overlooked. You respond, I can see why you would feel that way, and I want you to know that I take that seriously. At the same time, from where I stand, I think some of your suggestions have actually shaped what we are doing. Could I offer a different angle? Maybe we could work on how to present your ideas to make them land even more strongly. Colleague says, maybe. I just get frustrated in the moment. You say, I completely understand. I think we both want the same outcome. Let us take a step back and figure out how to make this work better for you. That is a mature, warm, and effective conversation. Notice how you never said the colleague was wrong. You acknowledged their feelings, offered your perspective gently, and moved toward a solution together. That is advanced English communication in action. Now let us turn to a topic that comes up in practically every conversation: the future. Plans, hopes, predictions, dreams, worries, possibilities. All of these come up constantly in daily life, and there is a wide and wonderful variety of phrases that help you express future ideas with exactly the right level of certainty or openness. Let us start with phrases for talking about plans. These are more expressive and natural alternatives to the basic, I am going to, I am looking forward to. This phrase does two things at once. It talks about a future event and expresses positive anticipation at the same time. For example, I am really looking forward to the long weekend. I have not had a proper break in weeks. Say it back. I am looking forward to. I am really looking forward to. I have been meaning to. This phrase is perfect for things you have been intending to do, but have not gotten around to yet. For example, I have been meaning to try that new bookstore downtown, but somehow I keep forgetting. Or, I have been meaning to call her for months. Every time I think of it, I get busy with something else. Listen, I have been meaning to. I have been meaning to. I am due to. This phrase is used for things that are scheduled or expected to happen. For example, I am due to have a checkup at the dentist next month. Or, she is due to present her findings at the conference next week. Say it. I am due to. I am due to. It is on my radar. This is a wonderfully casual expression that means something is something you are aware of and intending to do or attend. For example, learning Portuguese has been on my radar for a while now. I just have not found the right course yet. Or, that festival has been on my radar since last year. I really want to go this time. Repeat that. It is on my radar. It is on my radar. Now let us practice these in real sentences. Say each one out loud after me. I am really looking forward to finishing this project and having a weekend to myself. I have been meaning to reorganize my study space for about 3 months. I am due to have a review with my manager at the end of the month. A trip to Japan has been on my radar for years. Now try making your own sentences using each phrase. Think of real plans or intentions in your life and express them using today's expressions. Let us do a short speaking exercise with these planning phrases. I will give you a situation and you express it naturally. The situation is, you want to visit your grandparents, but you have not found the time yet. You say, I have been meaning to visit my grandparents for weeks. Every weekend something comes up. Or, the situation is, you have a medical appointment coming up. You say, I am due to see the doctor next Thursday for my annual checkup. Or, you have been wanting to learn a skill for a while. You say, learning watercolor painting has been on my radar since I saw an exhibition last year. Now try one with your own real life. Think of something you are genuinely planning or hoping to do, and say it out loud using one of today's phrases. Take a few seconds. Now let us look at phrases for expressing hopes and wishes. English has many beautiful ways to express optimism about the future that go far beyond just saying, I hope. I am crossing my fingers that. This is a warm and slightly anxious expression of hope. It suggests that the outcome is uncertain, but you really want it to go a certain way. For example, I am crossing my fingers that the weather holds for our outdoor event on Saturday. Or, I have applied for that grant and I am crossing my fingers that we hear back soon. Echo that. I am crossing my fingers that. I am crossing my fingers that. It would be wonderful if. This is more wistful and gentle. It expresses hope for something that is possible, but perhaps not certain. Your turn. It would be wonderful if. It would be wonderful if. With any luck. This phrase introduces a hopeful prediction. For example, with any luck, the traffic will not be too bad and we will make it in time. Say it back. With any luck. With any luck. Here is hoping. This short phrase is a warm way to express optimism at the end of a thought. For example, the flight is delayed, but here is hoping we still make our connection. Listen with warmth. Here is hoping. Here is hoping. Let us practice using these in a realistic daily conversation. Imagine you are talking to a colleague about an important upcoming presentation. You say, I have been meaning to rehearse it properly all week, but something keeps coming up. With any luck, I will have the evening free tonight. Colleague says, I am sure it will go well. You say, I am crossing my fingers. It would be wonderful if the technical setup works smoothly this time. Last time, the projector was a disaster. Colleague laughs and says, here is hoping for a smoother ride. You say, here is hoping indeed. Now let us practice phrases for predictions and gut feelings. Instead of just saying, I think something will happen, try, my gut feeling is. This phrase introduces a personal prediction based on instinct rather than data. It is honest and very natural. Say it. My gut feeling is. My gut feeling is. There is a good chance that. This introduces a likely possibility without being completely certain. Repeat that. There is a good chance that. There is a good chance that. I would not be surprised if. This is a calm and measured way to predict something based on what you have observed. Echo that. I would not be surprised if. I would not be surprised if. Things are looking promising. This is a quietly optimistic phrase that suggests you are hopeful about how things are developing. Your turn. Things are looking promising. Things are looking promising. Let us do a short speaking challenge with prediction phrases. I will describe a situation and you make a prediction using one of today's phrases. The situation is, your friend has been working incredibly hard and their annual review is coming up. You say, my gut feeling is they are going to do really well in that review. The situation is, you have heard that the company you applied to is looking to hire quickly. You say, there is a good chance they will be in touch by the end of the week. The situation is, a project your team has been working on for months is nearing completion. You say, things are really looking promising. I would not be surprised if we finish ahead of schedule. Let us put it all together in a short scene. You are talking to a friend about a new venture you are considering. You say, I have been meaning to start my own small business for years. It has always been on my radar. My gut feeling is that now is actually a good time to try. There is a good chance that the demand is there. With any luck, I will have something set up by the spring. Friend says, I am crossing my fingers for you. I think this could really work. You say, it would be wonderful if it did. Here is hoping. Feel how natural and emotionally rich that conversation is. Every phrase carries meaning and personality. That is what advanced English expression looks like. One of the most joyful aspects of being fluent in any language is the ability to tell a story that holds people's attention, that makes them laugh or feel or wonder. And in English, there are beautiful phrases that give your stories rhythm, drama, and life. Today, we are going to practice the specific expressions that turn an ordinary account of events into something genuinely captivating. Let us begin with scene-setting phrases, the words that pull your listener into the world of your story before anything has even happened yet. It was one of those mornings, afternoons, evenings. This phrase creates an instant mood. For example, it was one of those gray, drizzly mornings where everything feels like it is running in slow motion. Already you can picture it. Say it back. It was one of those quiet Sunday mornings. Picture this. This phrase is a wonderful invitation to your listener to use their imagination. It puts them inside the story before you have even described it. Listen. Picture this. Picture this. So there I was. This phrase drops you right into the moment of the story. It is conversational and immediate. For example, so there I was, standing in the middle of the grocery store, completely convinced I had forgotten my wallet. Say it. So there I was. So there I was. It all happened so fast. This phrase creates immediate tension. It tells your listener that something unexpected or dramatic is about to unfold. Repeat that. It all happened so fast. It all happened so fast. Now let us look at phrases that add drama and suspense mid-story. The expressions that keep your listener on the edge of their seat. And then out of nowhere. This is one of the most effective phrases for introducing a sudden twist or surprise in a story. Echo that. And then out of nowhere. And then out of nowhere. Just when I thought it was over. This phrase suggests that something unexpected happened after what seemed like the resolution. Your listener immediately wonders what comes next. Your turn. Just when I thought it was over. Just when I thought it was over. And that is when things got interesting. This phrase is like a signpost that says something important is about to be revealed. It creates anticipation beautifully. Say it back. And that is when things got interesting. And that is when things got interesting. You could have knocked me down with a feather. This is a wonderful idiom that means you were completely and utterly surprised. It is vivid and memorable. Listen, you could have knocked me down with a feather. Now let us practice building a full story using all of these. Take a deep breath and listen to this. And then we will repeat key parts together. It was one of those slow Friday afternoons at the end of a long week. Picture this. I am sitting at my desk with a cup of tea, thinking about nothing in particular, when my phone rings. So there I was, picking up the call without looking at the number, expecting it to be about something completely boring. And then out of nowhere, it was my old friend from back home, someone I had completely lost touch with and had been thinking about just the day before. You could have knocked me down with a feather. Just when I thought it was going to be an ordinary end to the week, it turned into one of the most unexpected and wonderful conversations I have had in years. And that is when things got really interesting. Because it turned out we were both going to be in the same city the following month. Feel the rhythm of that story. Feel the pauses, the building suspense, the warmth of the ending. Now try telling your own short story using at least 2 of these phrases. It can be completely ordinary, a funny coincidence, a small surprise, a moment that caught you off guard. The phrases will do the work of making it feel alive. Let us also practice story closing phrases, the expressions that bring your story to a satisfying end. In the end, it all worked out. Say it. In the end, it all worked out. Looking back, I would not change a thing. Repeat that. Looking back, I would not change a thing. And that, as they say, was that. Echo that. And that, as they say, was that. It turned out to be one of those days you never forget. Your turn. It turned out to be one of those days you never forget. Practice ending a short story of your own with one of these phrases right now. Think of something that happened recently. Describe it in 2 or 3 sentences, and then close it with one of today's endings. Feel how much more satisfying the story becomes with a proper close. Now let us look at phrases that are especially valuable in professional settings: workplaces, meetings, presentations, collaborative discussions, client conversations. These environments require a particular kind of English, still natural, still warm, but polished and structured enough to earn trust and respect. Let us start with phrases for contributing your ideas when you are in a group setting. Because in many workplaces, especially international ones, the ability to introduce your idea smoothly and confidently is a skill that gets noticed. Building on what was just said. This phrase is beautifully collaborative. It signals that you have listened to the previous speaker and you are adding to their idea rather than competing with it. Say it back. Building on what was just said. Building on what was just said. Adding to that. Similar but shorter and slightly more casual. Works perfectly in fast-moving discussions. Listen. Adding to that. One thing worth considering is, this phrase introduces an idea or factor that you feel the group may not have fully addressed yet. It is confident but not aggressive. Say it. One thing worth considering is, we might also want to think about, similar to the above but slightly more tentative. It works well when you are raising a point that might complicate an existing plan. Repeat that. We might also want to think about, now for acknowledging someone else's contribution before adding your own. Because in professional settings, how you position your ideas in relation to others matters greatly. That is a valid point. And I would add, this phrase is clear, respectful, and efficient. Echo that. That is a valid point. And I would add, picking up on what you mentioned, this phrase shows that you were listening carefully to a specific detail and you want to develop it further. Your turn. Picking up on what you mentioned, absolutely. And alongside that, this phrase agrees warmly and then extends the conversation in a natural direction. Say it back. Absolutely. And alongside that, let us do a short professional dialogue. A team is discussing a new product launch. Colleague A says, I think we should focus on social media for the launch. Colleague B says, that is a valid point. And I would add that we should also think about email outreach since our existing customer base is large. You say, building on what was just said, we might also want to think about a soft launch event to generate some word of mouth before the wider campaign goes live. Manager says, one thing worth considering is budget. Let us map out the costs first. You say, absolutely. And alongside that, I could draft a brief timeline so we can see how the pieces fit together. Notice how each person in that conversation sounds collaborative and professional. They are not talking over each other. They are building on each other's ideas. That is what high-functioning professional English sounds like. Now let us look at phrases for wrapping up conversations or meetings. Shall we leave it there for today? This is a gentle and natural way to signal that a conversation or meeting has reached a natural endpoint. Listen. Shall we leave it there for today? Let us circle back on this once we have more information. This phrase acknowledges that a topic is not fully resolved, but commits to revisiting it at the right time. Say it. Let us circle back on this. Let us circle back on this. I think we have covered the main points. This is a confident and clean way to summarize a conversation before ending it. Repeat that. I think we have covered the main points. Let us make sure we are aligned before we close. This phrase invites a final check of understanding to ensure everyone leaves the conversation on the same page. Echo that. Let us make sure we are aligned. Let us make sure we are aligned. Practice these closing phrases out loud now. Imagine you are finishing a productive meeting and say, I think we have covered the main points today. Let us circle back on the budget question once we have the numbers. And let us make sure we are aligned on next steps before we close. How does that sound to everyone? That is clear, confident, and completely natural professional English. Now, let us explore one of the deepest and most human aspects of language, emotional intelligence. The ability to notice what someone is feeling, to respond with sensitivity and care, and to communicate in a way that makes people feel truly seen and understood. This is where the most fluent speakers truly stand apart, not because of their vocabulary, but because of the warmth and attentiveness in how they use it. Let us start with phrases for gently checking in on someone who might be struggling. You seem a little quiet today. Everything all right? This is a beautifully observant phrase. It shows that you notice people, that you pay attention to their emotional state, not just their words. Your turn gently. You seem a little quiet today. Everything all right? I just wanted to check in. How are you really doing? The word really is doing a lot of work here. It signals that you are asking for an honest answer, not just a polite one. It opens a door that a simple "how are you" would not. Say it back. I just wanted to check in. How are you really doing? You do not have to talk about it, but I am here if you need to. This phrase is one of the kindest things you can say to someone who is clearly carrying something. It removes any pressure, and yet it makes absolutely clear that your care and presence are available. Listen slowly and gently. You do not have to talk about it, but I am here if you need to. Now, for responding when someone shares something difficult, the instinct many people have is to immediately offer advice or try to fix the problem. But often, what someone needs first is simply to feel heard. These phrases help you do that. That sounds really hard. Short, honest, and full of empathy. Say it. That sounds really hard. That sounds really hard. I can only imagine how that must feel. This phrase shows that you recognize the depth of someone's experience without pretending to fully understand it. Repeat that. I can only imagine how that must feel. It is okay to feel that way. This phrase is for moments when someone seems to be judging their own emotions, struggling with the fact that they are upset or frustrated or overwhelmed. Telling them it is okay to feel that way gives them permission to be human. Echo that. It is okay to feel that way. It is okay to feel that way. You do not have to have it all figured out. This is deeply reassuring for someone who is in a messy or confusing situation and feels pressure to know what to do next. Your turn. You do not have to have it all figured out. Let us practice a short, empathetic conversation. A friend reaches out and says, "I have just been feeling really overwhelmed lately, like I cannot keep up with everything." You say, "I am so glad you told me. That sounds really hard. I can only imagine how exhausting that must feel." Friend says, "I just do not know what to do about it." You say, "You do not have to have it all figured out right now. It is okay to feel the way you are feeling. Is there anything I can do? Or would it help just to talk?" Notice how that conversation stays completely focused on your friend and their experience. You do not try to fix or advise until they invite you to. You simply accompany them in the moment. That is emotional intelligence in language. Now let us also look at phrases for celebrating someone's success with genuine warmth and specificity. You absolutely deserved that. This phrase ties the person's outcome directly to their effort and character. It is much more meaningful than just saying congratulations. Say it back. You absolutely deserved that. You absolutely deserved that. That is the result of all your hard work. This phrase honors the effort behind the outcome. It reminds the person that their success is earned, not accidental. Listen. That is the result of all your hard work. I could not be more happy for you. This phrase puts the emphasis on your own genuine feeling of joy for the other person. It is warm and generous. Say it. I could not be more happy for you. You should be incredibly proud of yourself. This phrase invites the person to honor themselves and their achievement. It is encouraging and affirming. Repeat that. You should be incredibly proud of yourself. Let us use all four in one short scene. A friend calls to tell you they have just been accepted into a competitive program they worked very hard to get into. You say, "Oh my goodness, you absolutely deserved that. This is the result of all your hard work and dedication. I could not be more happy for you." Seriously, you should be incredibly proud of yourself. Feel the warmth in those sentences. They are not just polite responses. They are genuine celebrations. And that is what makes someone feel truly valued when they share good news with you. We are now moving into the final stretch of our time together today. And before we practice our closing exercises, I want to talk about something that goes far beyond vocabulary and phrases. I want to talk about who you are becoming as you continue this journey. Many learners think of English as a separate skill they are building on the side, like learning to ride a bike or use a new piece of software. But real fluency is something different. It happens when English begins to feel like a part of you, when you stop thinking of it as a foreign language and start experiencing it as another voice you have access to, another way of being in the world. And that shift happens not all at once, but gradually, through thousands of small moments of practice and connection and growth. Through every conversation you have, every phrase you notice, every sentence you say out loud, even when no one is listening. Through every time you choose to speak in English rather than retreating into silence. Let me share something important with you. You do not need to sound like someone from a specific country to be considered fluent. Fluency means you can express yourself clearly, connect with others warmly, navigate complex situations in English without anxiety. You may still pause to find a word sometimes. You may still make small grammatical errors. That is completely fine. That is normal. Even people who have spoken English their whole lives do that. What matters is that you keep communicating, that you trust your voice, that you show up. Echo that now with conviction. English is becoming natural to me. I communicate with ease and confidence. My vocabulary is growing every single day. I enjoy the process of learning. I am proud of how far I have come. Let those phrases sink in. They are not just affirmations. They are a description of what is already happening inside you every time you practice. Every session like this one is adding another layer to your English identity. Now, let us talk about one of the most powerful and underrated fluency practices there is: talking to yourself in English. I know that might sound a little funny, but it is genuinely one of the most effective things you can do. When you talk to yourself in English, you are not afraid of making mistakes. You are completely free to experiment, to try new phrases, to describe your surroundings, your thoughts, your feelings, all in English, in real time. You can do it anywhere. In the morning while you are getting ready. Describe what you are doing. I am making breakfast. The light is really beautiful this morning. I need to remember to reply to that message. While you are walking somewhere, narrate the scene around you. There is a market on this street today. I wonder if that stall is always here. When you finish something, congratulate yourself. Right, that is done. I am actually quite pleased with how that turned out. These small moments feel insignificant, but they add up enormously over time. Because you are training your brain to reach for English automatically, without the translation step, without the hesitation. And that is exactly where fluency lives. Let us also talk about building English into your daily habits in other ways. When you watch something in English, do not just consume it passively. Listen for the phrases, pause, and repeat lines you like. Ask yourself what the characters are feeling and try to describe it in English. When you read something in English, notice the expressions the writer uses and think about how you might use them in conversation. And when you have a real conversation in English, try something. Try to forget that you are learning. Try to just be present with the other person. Focus on what they are saying and what you want to share, not on whether your grammar is perfect. The more you shift your attention from the language to the connection, the more natural the language becomes. Because language is a vehicle, not a destination, it is what carries the connection, not the connection itself. Now let us also talk about one of the most common fears that holds English learners back: the fear of making a mistake in front of other people. I want to address this directly because it is something almost every learner experiences, and understanding it can genuinely set you free. Here is the truth. Every single time you speak English and make a mistake, your brain records it. Your brain notices the gap between what you said and what you meant. And the next time a similar situation arises, your brain reaches for a better option. This is how language acquisition actually works. Mistakes are not failures. They are data points. They are your brain's way of adjusting and improving. So instead of being afraid of making mistakes, try changing your relationship with them. When you say the wrong word, correct yourself gently and move on. When you cannot remember a phrase, use one of today's thinking expressions and keep going. When someone does not understand you, rephrase calmly and try again. And most importantly, after every conversation, even an imperfect one, remind yourself that you showed up, you tried, and you grew. Even if no one else noticed, your brain did. Say this with me softly. Every conversation I have in English makes me better. Even the imperfect ones teach me something. I am not afraid of mistakes. I am made stronger by them. Let us also think about the role of listening in building fluency. Many learners focus so much on speaking that they neglect the power of deep listening. But listening is where fluency is absorbed. When you listen carefully to natural English, you are collecting rhythm, intonation, patterns, phrases, and emotional cues that your brain stores and gradually starts to reproduce naturally. So make space in your life for rich listening experiences, conversations, stories, podcasts, films, songs. Let English wash over you, not as a study exercise, but as an experience. And here is something beautiful. The more you listen, the less you have to think about speaking, because your brain starts to predict and pattern match automatically. You hear a phrase in a new context, and it just makes sense. You hear a tone of voice, and you know immediately what emotion it carries. That is passive fluency building. And it happens even when you are not actively studying. One more habit I want to share with you: journaling in English. Even if just for 5 minutes before bed, writing down what happened in your day using English phrases is one of the most effective ways to cement new vocabulary and expressions into your long-term memory. You might write, "Today was one of those slow, rainy days where nothing much happened. I have been meaning to call my sister for weeks, and I finally did this evening. We talked for an hour, and it was wonderful. It would be wonderful if we could visit each other soon." Simple sentences, real feelings, your actual life, expressed in English. There is nothing more powerful than that. Say this softly with me one more time. I am an English speaker. I express myself clearly and confidently. My voice in English is strong and natural. My accent is my own, and it is perfect exactly as it is. I am growing every single day. We have now come to the final part of our masterclass together, and I want to close by bringing everything we have practiced today into one rich and flowing conversation. A full circle practice that uses today's phrases in a natural and connected way. Imagine you are at a language exchange evening. You have just arrived, and you spot someone standing near the refreshments who you recognize vaguely from a previous event. You walk over, you say, "Hey, long time no see. Are you doing all right?" They smile and say, "Yeah, pretty good, thanks. I was not sure you would be here tonight." You say, "I have been meaning to come to one of these for months. It finally made it onto my calendar." They laugh and say, "Me too. I only moved to this city recently, so I've been trying to find ways to meet people. You say, "Oh, really? What is that like for you, settling into a new city?" They pause and say, "It is honestly a bit of a mixed bag. Exciting, but also a little overwhelming at times." You say, "That sounds really hard at moments. I can imagine how much energy it takes. It is okay not to find your footing straight away." The conversation continues. They ask, "So, is English your first language?" You say, "No, I have been learning for a few years now. Off the top of my head, I would say the biggest change has been feeling less nervous when I speak. There was a moment a while back, I am trying to find the right way to put this, where something shifted and I stopped translating and just started communicating." They say, "That is interesting. Tell me more." You say, "Well, picture this. I was in a meeting and someone asked me something completely unexpected. And then, out of nowhere, I just answered without thinking about the words, just focusing on what I wanted to say. You could have knocked me down with a feather. I had no idea I was that far along." They say, "That is brilliant. You absolutely deserved that moment." You say, "Thank you. That means a lot. I have been crossing my fingers that it keeps going like that. I think things are looking promising." They say, "I am sure they are. With that kind of mindset?" You talk for a while longer, and eventually you say, "We should wrap up before the session starts properly. But I would love to continue this conversation. Would you be up for grabbing a coffee sometime this week?" They say, "I would love to. Count me in." You say, "That sounds like a plan. Let me give you my number." They say, "Great. It was so nice talking to you tonight." You say, "Same here. I am really glad I came. It turned out to be one of those evenings you never forget." Take a moment and read through that conversation again in your mind. Notice how naturally all of today's phrases fit into a single real interaction. Not forced, not rehearsed sounding, just human, warm, and genuinely connected. Every phrase you practiced today was designed to live in moments exactly like that one. Now, let us close with a few final reflections. Over the course of this masterclass, you have practiced phrases for opening conversations with warmth, sharing news and updates with energy and suspense, reacting to good and difficult news with genuine emotion, softening requests and opinions to show respect and care, handling hesitation with grace and confidence, making and receiving invitations naturally, explaining and clarifying your meaning clearly, taking casual conversation to a deeper and more meaningful level, navigating disagreement with emotional intelligence and calm, expressing your future plans and hopes with personality and variety, telling stories that have rhythm and drama, communicating professionally in group and workplace settings, supporting others with empathy and celebrating their successes with warmth, and building the identity of a confident and growing English speaker. These are not phrases from a textbook. These are the expressions that real people use in real life every single day. And now they are yours. Before you close this lesson, I want to invite you to do just one thing. Choose 3 phrases from today. Write them down or say them aloud 3 times each. and then find one real opportunity to use one of them in the next 24 hours. In a text message, in a conversation, with a family member, with a colleague, with yourself, just once in a real moment. That one use, multiplied over days and weeks and months, is exactly how fluency grows. And I want to say something else before we part today, something I hope you carry with you beyond this lesson. Learning a language is one of the most courageous and generous things a human being can do. Think about it. You are choosing to make yourself vulnerable, to speak imperfectly in front of others, to reach across cultural and linguistic distances in order to connect. That takes real courage. And every time you do it, you are not just improving your English, you are expanding your world. The phrases you practice today are not just tools for communication. They are bridges. Every time you say, "I can only imagine how that must feel," to someone who is struggling, you are building a bridge of empathy. Every time you say, "You absolutely deserve that," to someone who achieves something, you are building a bridge of encouragement. Every time you use, "I have been meaning to," or "things are looking promising," you are building a bridge between your inner world and the people around you. You are sharing yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences in another language. And that is extraordinary. So please do not measure your progress only in grammar tests and vocabulary lists. Measure it in moments of real connection. In the conversation where you made someone laugh. In the email where you expressed something difficult and said it just right. In the moment when you realized you had been speaking English for 20 minutes without thinking about the language at all. Those moments are your real milestones. Collect them, celebrate them, and let them fuel you forward. Let us close with our final reflection together. Say this with me softly and with genuine belief. I am growing every day. My English voice is becoming more and more my own. I will keep practicing, keep connecting, keep showing up. Because fluency is not a destination. It is a way of living in the language. And I am already on my way. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It has truly been a joy to learn alongside you. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive, keep your heart open, keep speaking from the most honest and natural place within you. This is Elena, wishing you confidence, connection, and endless growth. See you in the next lesson.